Captain Jake Morrison walked across the bridge of the USS Valiant. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Outside the windows, space looked empty and cold. Stars dotted the darkness like tiny diamonds. Jake had been in space for 6 months now, leading humanity's first trip to the stars. The bridge crew worked at their stations. Lisa Hayes sat at the science console, studying star charts on her screen. Ben Carter was at the engineering station, watching the new faster-than-light drive they had built. Alex Turner kept his eyes on the weapon systems, even though they had not seen any other ships yet. They were alone out here, or so they thought. Jake was thinking about Earth when the strange sound filled the bridge. It was not like any radio signal they had heard before. The sound was high and musical, like someone singing in a language they did not know. All the crew members stopped what they were doing and looked around. "What is that?" Jake asked, walking over to Lisa's station. Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her controls. Her face showed confusion and excitement. "Captain, this is incredible. It's a signal, but not from Earth. It's coming from somewhere else, somewhere far away." "Another ship?" Alex asked, his hand moving toward the weapon controls. "No, not a ship. It's coming from a planet about 20 light-years from here." Lisa looked up at Jake. "Captain, I think we just received our first message from aliens." The bridge went quiet. Everyone stared at Lisa. They had hoped to find other life in the galaxy, but now that it was happening, it felt strange and scary. "Can you understand what they're saying?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "Not yet, but the computer's working on it. The signal's very complex. It's like they're trying to send us pictures and sounds at the same time." Ben walked over from his station. "Captain, if they can send signals this far, they must have technology as good as ours. Maybe better. Or maybe much worse," Alex said quietly. "Maybe they're desperate." As if Alex had guessed right, the computer suddenly made a beeping sound. Lisa's screen lit up with words and pictures. The translation system had started working. "Oh my God," Lisa whispered. "Captain, you need to see this." Jake looked at the screen. The words were simple, but they made his heart race. "El Pasui are dying. The destroyers came from the dark. They kill everything. Please help us." The message repeated over and over. With each repetition, the computer translated more words. Soon, they could understand most of it. The aliens called themselves the Zenturi. They lived on a planet called Zenturi Prime. Something called the Vorthok had attacked them. "Lisa, how long would it take us to get there?" Jake asked. "With our drive, about 3 days." "But Captain, we don't know anything about these aliens." "They could be lying. This could be a trap." Alex nodded. "She's right, Captain. What if these Zenturi are the bad guys? What if they're trying to trick us?" Jake thought about this. He walked to the main window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were crying for help. Maybe they were good people, maybe they were not. But they were asking for help. "Keep translating," he told Lisa. "I want to know everything." Over the next hour, more of the message became clear. Zenturi told a story that made Jake's blood run cold. The Vorthok were not just attacking one planet. They were attacking many planets. They destroyed entire civilizations. It already killed billions of people across the galaxy. The Zenturi message included pictures. Jake and his crew saw beautiful cities made of crystal and light. They saw the Zenturi themselves, tall beings that looked like they were made of living glass. They seemed peaceful and gentle. Then they saw the Vorthok. The aliens looked like giant insects, but they walked on 2 legs and carried weapons. They were destroying the crystal cities. The pictures showed Zenturi people running and screaming. Ships were falling from the sky. "How many planets have these Vorthok destroyed?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her screen. "According to this, 17. Worlds, billions of people dead. Zenturi say they are the last free world in their part of the galaxy." "What about their military? Their weapons?" Alex asked. "That's the problem," Lisa said sadly. "They don't have any. The Zenturi are peaceful. They have never fought a war. They don't know how to fight back." Ben shook his head. "How can a whole civilization not know how to fight? How did they survive this long?" "Maybe they never needed to," Jake said. "Maybe their part of the galaxy was always peaceful until these Vorthok came along. The message continued to play. Zenturi had been watching Earth for many years. They had learned some human languages from radio and television signals. They knew humans fought wars. They knew humans had weapons. They thought humans were violent and dangerous. "Listen to this part," Lisa said. She played a section of the message that had just been translated. A Zenturi voice spoke in broken English. "We know you are the violent ones. We know you fight and kill. We never wanted to talk to you, but now we have no choice. The destroyers are coming. We will all die unless someone helps us. Please, violent ones from the dangerous world, help us. We're sorry we never talked to you before." The bridge went quiet again. Jake felt strange. Hearing the aliens call humans violent, it was true that humans fought wars, but they also helped each other. They also protected the weak. "They're calling us violent," Alex said. "But they're the ones asking for help." "Well, maybe that's why they need us," Ben said. "Maybe being peaceful is good, but sometimes you need to know how to fight." Jake made his decision. "Lisa, send a message back. Tell them we're coming. Tell them Earth will help them." "Captain, are you sure?" Lisa asked. "Yes. This could be very dangerous." "We don't know what we're getting into, I'm sure," Jake said. Ben, prepare the ship for a long jump. Alex, get our weapons ready." "Lisa, keep talking to the Zenturi. I want to know everything about these Vorthok before we get there." As the crew prepared for the jump to Zenturi Prime, Jake thought about what they were doing. Humanity was about to meet its first aliens. They were going to war with creatures they had never seen. They were traveling to a world they had never visited. But Jake knew they had to go. The Zenturi were dying, and Earth was the only hope they had left. The humans were about to show the galaxy what people from a dangerous world could do when innocent lives were at stake. The UES. Valiant turned toward the coordinates the Zenturi had sent. The faster-than-light drive began to charge. In a few hours, they would jump across 20 light-years of space to save a world full of strangers. Jake looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were ready. They were humans, and humans did not abandon people who needed help. "Beginning jump in 10 minutes. Ben announced from his station. Jake sat in his captain's chair and gripped the armrests. They were about to make history. They were about to become the first humans to meet aliens. They were about to show the galaxy what Earth was capable of. The stars outside began to change as the ship prepared to jump. Soon they would see if the humans from the dangerous world called Earth could save the peaceful Zenturi from the destroying Vorthok. The galaxy was about to meet the Deathworlders. The EU's Valiant dropped out of hyperspace near Zenturi Prime. What Jake Morrison and his crew saw made their hearts sink. The beautiful crystal planet they had seen in the alien messages was now surrounded by huge dark ships. The Vorthok fleet filled the space around the world like a swarm of angry wasps. "My God," Lisa Hayes whispered from her science station. "There are so many of them." She counted the enemy ships on the main screen. There were at least 50 large vessels, each one bigger than 3 human ships put together. Smaller fighter craft moved between them like schools of fish. The Vorthok had brought enough firepower to destroy 100 worlds. "Captain, look at the planet," Alex Turner said, pointing to his tactical display. Jake looked at the planet below. The crystal cities he had seen in the messages were burning. Bright flashes of light showed where Vorthok weapons were hitting the surface. Parts of the beautiful crystal spires were already broken and dark. Smoke rose from what had once been peaceful settlements. "Ben, how long until they detect us?" Jake asked. Ben Carter checked his instruments. "It's maybe 5 minutes. We came in behind their moon, so we're hidden for now. They'll find us soon." "Lisa, try to contact the Zenturi. Let them know we're here." Lisa's fingers moved over her controls. After a moment, she shook her head. "I'm getting signals from the planet, but they're all emergency channels. People screaming, calling for help. It's chaos down there." Alex studied the enemy ships on his screen. "Captain, these Vorthok vessels are huge, but they're slow. They're built for attacking planets, not fighting other ships. They won't be able to turn quickly." "What about their weapons?" Jake asked. "Heavy plasma cannons, but they're designed for bombing cities, not ship combat. If we can get close, and move fast, we might have a chance. Jake thought about their situation. One human ship against 50 alien warships? Any smart captain would run away. But the Zenturi were dying below, and there was nowhere to run anyway. The Vorthok would probably follow them back to Earth. "Amy, get the medical bay ready," Jake told Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's doctor. "We're going to have wounded people soon." Amy nodded and left the bridge. She knew what was coming. They all did. Suddenly, Lisa's console lit up with an incoming message. The translation computer worked quickly, and words appeared on the screen. The voice that spoke was different from the earlier distress calls. This voice was clearer, stronger. "Unknown ship. This is Council Leader Zixthera of the Zenturi. Detected your arrival. Are you the humans from the dangerous world called Earth?" Jake took a deep breath. "Lisa, open a channel." "Channel open, Captain." "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Valiant. We received your distress call. We're here to help." There was a pause. Then the alien voice spoke again, and Jake could hear surprise in it. "You actually came. We sent the message to your world because we were desperate. We never thought the violent Deathworlders would really come to help us." "We're not just violent," Jake said. "We also protect people who need help. Can you tell us about the Vorthok forces?" "They have been attacking us for 6 days. Our defense. Ships were destroyed in the first hour. We have no weapons, no way to fight back. They're landing troops on the surface now. They kill everyone they find." Alex leaned toward Jake. "Captain, I'm detecting movement in the Vorthok fleet. Some of their ships are turning toward us." "They found us," Ben said, watching his instruments. "Live 6-4 large ships and about 20. Fighters heading our way?" Jake looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were ready. "Alex, charge all weapons. Ben, give me everything the engines can handle. Lisa, keep that channel open. I want the Zenturi to see what humans can do." The first Vorthok fighters reached them quickly. They were sleek, black ships with glowing red engines. They moved in perfect formation, like they were part of one mind. Their weapons fired bright green beams that lit up the darkness of space. "Incoming." "Fire," Alex announced. "Shields are holding." Jake watched the enemy fighters on the main screen. They were fast, but they attacked in straight lines, predictable patterns. It was like they had practiced the same moves over and over. "Alex, wait until they get close, then hit them with everything we have. Don't follow their patterns. Be unpredictable." "Yes, sir." The human ship spun and dove, moving in ways the Vorthok had never seen before. While alien ships fought in neat formations, the Valiant moved like a wild animal, striking from unexpected angles. Alex fired the ship's weapons. Human plasma cannons and missile systems hit the Vorthok fighters. 3 enemy ships exploded in balls of fire. The others scattered, confused by the human attack methods. "They're not used to fighting like this," Alex said with excitement. "They expect enemies to fight in formations, following rules." "Humans don't follow rules in a fight," Jake said. "We do whatever it takes to win." The larger Vorthok ships were getting closer. These were the size of small moons, covered in armor and weapons. They moved slowly but fired massive energy beams that could cut a planet in half. "Captain, we can't fight those big ships head-on," Ben said. "They'll destroy us in one shot." "Then we won't fight them head-on," Jake replied. "Take us straight at the largest ship. Full speed." "Captain, that's suicide," Lisa said. "No, it's not." "Alex, wait until we're almost touching that ship. Then fire everything we have at the same spot. Aim for what looks like their command center." The Valiant accelerated toward the massive Vorthok dreadnought. The enemy ship fired its main guns, but the beams missed the small, fast-moving human vessel. The Vorthok gunners were used to shooting at large, slow targets. 500 meters, Ben announced. 300. 100. Now, Jake shouted. Alex fired every weapon the ship had. Plasma cannons, missiles, and energy beams all hit the same spot on the huge alien vessel. The Vorthok ship's shields flashed and died. Its armor cracked. Explosions rippled across its surface. Its direct hit on their command section, Alex reported. They're losing power. The damaged dreadnought began to drift, its engines failing. The other Vorthok ships stopped their attack, confused by what had happened. They had never seen anything like human tactics before, Captain Lisa said. I'm getting a message from... The Zentari Council leader Zixthera wants to speak with you. Put her through. The alien voice sounded amazed. Human Captain, we watched your attack. We have never seen anything like it. You moved your ship like it was alive. You struck like lightning. How do you fight with such chaos? Jake smiled. We don't fight with chaos. We fight with creativity. We adapt. We do whatever works. The Vorthok are attacking our cities. Can you help the people on the surface? Jake looked at his crew. They were already damaged from the space battle. Going to the planet would be even more dangerous. But people were dying down there. We'll help, he said. But we need to know about the Vorthok ground forces. They are like giant insects that walk on two legs. They carry energy weapons. They work together like parts of one creature. They have surrounded our capital city. How many? Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. We have never seen so many. Alex checked his weapons. Captain, we have Marines on this ship. Colonel Pete Jackson and his men. They're trained for ground combat. Jake nodded. Ben, take us down to the planet. Stay low and fast. Lisa, tell the Zentari we're coming to help their people. As the Valiant descended toward the crystal world, Jake thought about what they were doing. They were one ship against an army. They were humans. Humans had been fighting impossible battles for thousands of years. The ship broke through the planet's atmosphere. Below them, the crystal cities burned while alien invaders marched through the streets. The Zentari people ran and hid, not knowing how to fight back. But now the humans were here. The Deathworlders had come to help. The galaxy was about to learn. What happened when you threatened to innocent people in front of humans from Earth? The U's Valiant flew low over the crystal cities of Zentari Prime. Jake Morrison looked down at the destruction below. The beautiful spires he had seen in the alien messages were now broken and burning. Green energy beams from Vorthok weapons cut through the crystal buildings like knives through glass. Colonel Jackson, report to the bridge, Jake said into his communicator. Colonel Pete Jackson arrived quickly. He was a tall man with scars on his face from battles on Earth. His Marines were the best soldiers humanity had ever trained. We're ready for any fight. Colonel, we need to get down there and help the Zentari people, Jake said. What do you need? Pete studied the tactical display showing the enemy positions. Give me 20 Marines and our best equipment. We'll take the shuttle down and hit the Vorthok from behind. They won't expect it. Are 20 men enough against thousands of enemies? Lisa Hayes asked. Pete smiled grimly. Ma'am, we're not just 20 men. We're 20 humans. These Vorthok have never fought anyone like us. Alex Turner pointed to his screen. The main Vorthok forces surrounding the Zentari capital. They're moving in formation like they're marching in a parade. They're not even watching their backs. That's their mistake, Pete said. Ben, can you get us close without being detected? Ben Carter nodded. I can drop you right in the middle of their formation. They won't see us coming. Dr. Amy Foster stepped forward. Colonel, I'm coming with you. The Zentari people will need medical help. Doctor, it's going to be dangerous, Pete warned. A Dr. Amy said firmly, dangerous is part of my job. Jake made his decision. Take the doctor, Colonel. And Pete, show these aliens what humans can do. The shuttle bay doors opened. 20 Marines in combat armor climbed into the transport ship. They carried weapons that could punch through alien armor. Each Marine was trained to fight alone or as part of a team. They were ready for war. The shuttle dropped from the Valiant and flew toward the planet's surface. Pete looked at his men. They were young, but they had trained for this their whole lives. They were about to fight humanity's first alien war. Listen up, Pete told his Marines. These Vorthok are tough, but they fight like robots. They follow patterns. They don't think for themselves. Use that against them. Be unpredictable. Be creative. Be human. The shuttle landed in a crystal forest near the capital city. The Zentari. Trees were like glass sculptures, beautiful but now broken by the war. The Marines spread out, moving silently through the crystal undergrowth. There, whispered Sergeant Danny Brooks, pointing ahead. Vorthok Patrol. 8. Pete looked through his binoculars. 6 Vorthok soldiers marched in a perfect line through the forest. They were 8 feet tall, covered in black armor that looked like insect shells. Their weapons glowed with green energy. They moved like machines, each step exactly the same. For my signal, Pete whispered. The Vorthok patrol walked closer. They were not looking around for enemies. They were just following their programmed route. Pete realized these aliens had never been ambushed before. They did not know what it meant to be hunted. Now Pete said quietly. The Marines attacked from all sides. Human weapons fired silent projectiles that punched through Vorthok armor. The aliens fell before they could even raise their weapons. It was over in seconds. Search them, Pete ordered. I want to know how their equipment works. No. The Marines studied the alien weapons and armor. The Vorthok technology was powerful, but simple. It was designed for fighting enemies who stood in the open and fired back. It was not designed for fighting humans who hid and struck from shadows. Colonel Amy said, kneeling beside one of the fallen Vorthok. This one is still alive. Pete walked over to the wounded alien. The Vorthok's insect-like eyes stared at him with hatred. It tried to speak, but its voice was just clicking sounds. Ken, you understand me? Pete asked. The alien's clicking became more urgent. It seemed confused that Pete was talking to it instead of killing it. Amy began treating the creature's wounds. It's badly hurt, but it will live. The Vorthok stared at Amy. In shock, it had never seen an enemy help a wounded soldier. In Vorthok culture, the wounded were left to die. But this human was trying to save its life. Why? The alien finally said in broken English. Why help enemy? Because that's what humans do, Amy said simply. We help people who are hurt. The Vorthok's eyes showed something that might have been confusion or fear. It had never met enemies like these before. Pete's radio crackled. Colonel, this is Captain Morrison. We're picking up Zenturi communications. They're trapped in their government building. Thousands of Vorthok are surrounding them. Understood, Captain. We're moving to help them. The Marines moved through the Crystal City toward the government building. Everywhere they looked, they saw the results of the Vorthok attack. Crystal homes were shattered. Zenturi people hid in the ruins, too scared to move. There, said Corporal Lisa Park, pointing to a group of Zenturi civilians hiding behind a broken wall. They're trapped. Between the civilians and safety, a group of Vorthok soldiers stood guard. They were not paying attention to their surroundings. They were just watching the building they had been ordered to watch. Same pattern, Pete said. They don't think for themselves. Danny, take 5 men and go around to the left. Lisa, take 5 and go right. I'll take the rest straight up the middle. That's a lot of enemies for a frontal attack, Danny said. That's the point, Pete replied. They'll focus on me and won't see you coming. The Marines moved into position. Pete and his team walked straight toward the Vorthok position, making no effort to hide. The aliens saw them coming and raised their weapons. Humans, one of the Vorthok said in its clicking language. Kill them. The Vorthok fired their green energy weapons. Pete and his men scattered, taking cover behind crystal debris. The aliens advanced in a perfect line, just as they had been trained. That was when Danny and Lisa struck from the sides. The Vorthok had focused all their attention on the frontal attack. They never saw the flanking forces until it was too late. Classic pincer movement, Pete said with satisfaction as the last Vorthok fell. They really don't know how to fight a real war. The Zenturi civilians came out of hiding slowly. They stared at the human soldiers with amazement. These violent Deathworlders had just saved their lives. Thank you, one of the Zenturi said. It was an elderly being whose crystal body was cracked with age. We thought we were going to die. Not while we were here, Pete said. Where are the rest of your people? Zenturi pointed to the government building. Council leader Zixthera and 300 others are trapped inside. The Vorthok have surrounded the building. They are waiting for orders to attack. Pete studied the building through his binoculars. It was a massive crystal structure shaped like a flower. Hundreds of Vorthok soldiers stood around it in perfect formation. They were not moving, just waiting. They're waiting for orders, Pete realized. They don't do anything without being told. Amy finished treating a wounded Zentari child. If we can disrupt their command structure, maybe they'll stop attacking. Good idea, Doctor. But first we need to get those people out of that building. Pete called Captain Morrison on his radio. Captain, we need the ship's weapons to create a distraction. Can you make some noise? Absolutely, Colonel. Stand by. The Valiant appeared overhead. Its weapons fired at empty areas around the government building, creating explosions but not hitting anyone. The Vorthok soldiers all turned to look at the ship. Now, Pete whispered. The Marines moved like ghosts through the crystal streets. While the Vorthok stared at the sky, the humans slipped past them and reached the government building. Inside, they found Council Leader Zixera and hundreds of Zentari people. The aliens looked like living crystal sculptures, beautiful and fragile. They had never seen humans up close before. You're the Deathworlders, Zixera said in wonder. You really came to help us? Yes, ma'am, Pete said. Now let's get you out of here. The evacuation began. Marines led small groups of Zentari through secret passages in the crystal building. Amy treated the wounded. Pete coordinated with the ship above. But as they worked, Pete realized something important. The Vorthok were not just following orders. They were part of something bigger. Somewhere there was a command center controlling all of them. Captain Morrison, Pete said into his radio, I think we need to find their command ship. These ground forces are being controlled from space. Understood, Colonel. We're working on it. First groups of Zentari reached safety. But Pete knew this was just the beginning. The real battle was still coming. The humans had shown the galaxy what they could do on the ground. To show what they could do in space, the Deathworlders were just getting started. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the EU's Valiant, watching the reports come in from across the galaxy. What had started as a rescue mission was becoming something much bigger. News of humanity's fight against the Vorthok was spreading to every corner of space. Captain, we're receiving signals from 17 different star systems, Lisa Hayes said from her station. Word is getting out about what we did here. Jake looked at the main screen. It showed a map of nearby space with dozens of blinking lights. Each light was a different alien civilization that had heard about the humans fighting the Vorthok. What are they saying? Jake asked. Lisa worked at her controls, translating the alien messages. Most of them can't believe it. They're calling us crazy for attacking the Vorthok fleet. But some of them sound hopeful, like maybe someone can finally stop the Vorthok advance. Alex Turner looked up from his tactical station. Captain, we're also getting signals from Vorthok-controlled worlds. It looks like there are resistance movements on some of the conquered planets. Resistance movements? Jake asked with surprise. Double quotes, yes, sir. Groups of aliens who went into hiding when the Vorthok invaded. They've been waiting for someone strong. Enough to fight back? They think that someone might be us. Ben Carter walked over to Jake's chair. Captain, I've been thinking about something. The Vorthok soldiers we fought moved like they were being controlled. What if they have a central command that tells all their forces what to do? You mean like a hive mind? Jake asked. Maybe. Or maybe just one big computer that runs their whole military. If we could find it and shut it down. Their whole fleet would be helpless, Jake finished. Lisa scanned the Vorthok ships. Look for the one that's sending the most signals. Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her controls. After a few minutes, she pointed to the largest ship on the display. Their captain, that massive dreadnought in the center of their formation, sending constant signals to every other Vorthok ship and to the ground forces too. Jake studied the enemy vessel. It was 3 times bigger than any other ship in the Vorthok fleet. Its hull was covered with communication arrays and signal towers. It has to be their command ship. Captain, Alex said, that ship is heavily defended. It has the strongest shields and the most weapons. Getting close to it will be almost impossible. Almost impossible is not the same as impossible, Jake replied. Alex, what would happen if we could get our Marines aboard that ship? If Colonel Jackson and his men could take control of their command center, they might be able to shut down the whole Vorthok fleet. Jake activated his communicator. Colonel Jackson returned to the ship immediately. We have a new mission. 20 minutes later, Pete Jackson stood in the briefing room with Jake and the senior officers. His armor was still dirty from the battle on the planet's surface. "Colonel, we think the Vorthok fleet is controlled from one command ship," Jake explained. "We need you and your Marines to board that ship and take control of their command center." Pete looked at the images of the massive Vorthok dreadnought. "That's a big ship, Captain. We'll have thousands of soldiers aboard." "Can you do it?" Jake asked. Pete smiled. "Sir, my Marines just fought an army of giant insects and won. One ship should be easy. This won't be like the ground battle," Alex warned. "On their own ship, the Vorthok will be ready for boarders. They'll have heavy weapons and better armor. They'll also be fighting in narrow corridors," Pete replied. "That's where humans are at our best. We're smaller and faster than they are. We can use their size against them." Dr. Amy Foster stepped forward. "Colonel, I want to go with you." "Doctor, this is going to be the most dangerous mission yet," Pete said. "That's exactly why you need me. If we're going to shut down their command center, we need to understand how Vorthok technology works. And if there are wounded Vorthok aboard, treating them might be the key to winning this war." Jake nodded. "Take the doctor, Colonel. Medical knowledge might be more valuable than another rifle." Ben had been studying the ship's design. "Captain, I think I can get our shuttle close to their docking bay. The Vorthok use big, slow transport ships. If I paint our shuttle to look like one of theirs, we might be able to fly right up to them." "Do it," Jake ordered. "How long do you need?" "Give me 2 hours to modify the shuttle's appearance and signals. The Vorthok won't know we're human until we're already aboard their ship." While Ben worked on the shuttle, Pete briefed his Marines. They studied the layout of Vorthok ships and practiced fighting in narrow spaces. Amy prepared medical supplies and studied what she had learned about Vorthok biology from treating the wounded soldier on the planet. Remember, Pete told his men, "These aliens are bigger and stronger than us, but they're not smarter. They follow patterns. They don't adapt. Use that against them." Sergeant Danny Brooks raised his hand. "What if they try to destroy their own command center to stop us?" "They won't," Amy said confidently. "I've been studying Vorthok behavior. They never destroy their own technology. They see it as sacred. They would rather die than damage their own equipment." 2 hours later, the modified shuttle launched from the Valiant. It looked like a Vorthok transport ship, complete with the right signals and identification codes that Ben had copied from captured enemy communications. Jake watched. From the bridge, as the shuttle flew toward the massive command ship. "Lisa, are they taking the bait?" "So far, so good," Lisa replied. "The Vorthok are letting them approach. They think it's one of their own ships." The shuttle reached the command ship's docking bay without any problems. The massive doors opened, and the human shuttle flew inside. Pete and his Marines were now in the heart of the enemy fleet. "We're in," Pete's voice came over the radio, beginning assault on the command center. On the bridge of the Valiant, Jake and his crew watched the tactical display. Red dots showed Vorthok forces throughout their command ship. Blue dots showed Pete's Marines moving through the corridors. "They're making good progress," Alex reported. "The Vorthok weren't expecting boarders. The Marines are catching them by surprise." But as the minutes passed, the red dots began to move. The Vorthok were organizing a defense. More and more enemy soldiers were heading toward the human Marines. "Colonel, you've got heavy resistance coming your way," Jake warned over the radio. "We see them, Captain," Pete replied. "But we're almost to the command center. Just a few more corridors." The battle inside the Vorthok ship was fierce. Pete's Marines moved through the alien corridors like shadows, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond. But the Vorthok had thousands of soldiers aboard, and they were starting to surround the humans. "Amy, how are you doing?" Pete asked over the squad radio. "I'm fine, Colonel. I've made an interesting discovery." The Vorthok crew members aren't just following orders. They're actually scared. They've never been boarded before. They don't know what to do. Pete realized Amy was right. The Vorthok soldiers they encountered were confused and frightened. They had been trained to fight enemies on planets, not intruders aboard their own ships. "Danny, take your squad and make as much noise as possible on Deck 7, Pete ordered. "Lisa, do the same on Deck 9. I want them to think we're everywhere at once." The Marines split up, creating chaos throughout the ship. The Vorthok command Structure designed for orderly battles, could not handle the unpredictable human tactics. Finally, Pete and Amy reached the command center. It was a massive room filled with alien computers and control systems. Hundreds of Vorthok technicians worked at stations throughout the chamber. "This is it," Pete said. "Amy, can you figure out how to shut down their fleet?" Amy studied the alien technology. It was complex but logical, I think so. "But Pete, look at this." She pointed to a large display that showed the positions of Vorthok fleets throughout the galaxy. There were hundreds of ships attacking dozens of worlds. "My God," Pete whispered. "They're everywhere. This isn't just an invasion of a few planets. They're trying to conquer the entire galaxy." "All the more reason to stop them here," Amy said. She began working at the alien controls, using her knowledge of Vorthok technology to access their systems. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The Vorthok had realized that humans were in their command center. "Colonel, you've got company coming." Jake's voice crackled over the radio. "About 200 Vorthok soldiers heading your way." Pete positioned his remaining Marines at the entrances. "To the command center, hold this position. Don't let anyone through." Amy worked frantically at the alien computers. "Almost got it. Just need a few more minutes." The sound of weapons fire echoed through the corridors outside. Pete's Marines were fighting desperately to hold their position. But there were so many Vorthok soldiers, and more were coming every minute. "Got it?" Amy shouted suddenly. The command center's displays flickered and changed. All across the galaxy, Vorthok fleets suddenly stopped moving. Their weapons powered down. Their ships went silent.
Ow.
"What did you do?" Pete asked. "I didn't shut down their systems," Amy said with a smile. "I reprogrammed them. Now instead of attacking other planets, the Vorthok fleets are ordered to return to their home worlds and defend them." Jake's voice came over the radio, filled with excitement. "Colonel, the entire Vorthok fleet is withdrawing. They're leaving Zenturi Prime. Whatever you did, it worked." 6 months had passed since the battle at Zenturi Prime. Captain Jake Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, stood in his new office on the space station that orbited the Crystal World. Through his window, he could see ships from dozens of different alien civilizations docked at the station. The galaxy had changed completely. The Zenturi had built the station as a gift to humanity. They called it New Hope Station, and it had become the center of something no one had expected. What started as a rescue mission had become the foundation of a new galactic government. "Admiral, the morning briefing is ready," said Commander Lisa Hayes, walking into his office. She wore the new uniform of the combined fleet, a military force that included ships and crews from 23 different worlds. Jake followed her to the briefing room. Around the table sat beings from across the galaxy. Council leader Zixthera represented the Zenturi. A warsinger Veltara, who had learned human military tactics, spoke for the Crystal People's new defense forces. There was also Captain Rick Davis from Earth, who commanded the growing human fleet, and Dr. Amy Foster, who now ran the interspecies medical corps. "What's the situation report?" Jake asked as he sat down. "Good news and challenging news," Lisa said, activating the holographic display.
Activize.
"The Vorthok have completely withdrawn from all conquered worlds. Our reprogramming of their command systems worked perfectly. They're all back in their home territory, and they're staying there." The display showed a map of the galaxy. Large areas that had been marked in red 6 months ago were now blue or green, showing free worlds. "How many civilizations have we freed?" Jake asked. 47 worlds are now independent again," Zixthera said in her musical voice. "The people are rebuilding their cities and their lives. Many of them want to join our alliance." Warsinger Veltara leaned forward. Her crystal body had grown brighter over the months as she learned about warfare and leadership. "Admiral, the Zenturi Military Academy is training officers from 12 different species. They are learning human tactics mixed with their own abilities. We are becoming stronger every day." Jake nodded. The academy had been Amy's idea. She believed that teaching other species to defend themselves was better than just protecting them with human ships. "What about the Vorthok themselves?" Jake asked. "Any word from their territory?" Rick Davis, A weathered space captain who had arrived from Earth 3 months ago consulted his datapad. That's the interesting part, Admiral. We're getting signals from inside Vorthok space. Seems like our reprogramming did more than just stop their invasion. It started a civil war. A civil war? Jake asked with concern. Some Vorthok want to go back to conquering other worlds, Amy explained. But others are questioning their whole way of life. The ones we treated with medical care during the battle have been telling their people about human compassion. It's causing big changes in their society. Jake thought about this. When they first came to help the Zenturi, he never imagined they would end up changing an entire species. There's more, Lisa said. We've received formal requests from 15 civilizations asking Earth to send military advisors. They want to learn how to fight like humans. In the challenging news, Jake asked. 3 different species have declared war on each other, Rick said grimly. Without the Vorthok threat to unite them, some old conflicts are starting again. The Saurian Republic and the Kefter merchants are fighting over trade routes. Machine people called the Nexus Collective are expanding into empty Vorthok territory. Jake sighed. So we stopped one war and accidentally started 3 others. It's not that simple, Zixthera said gently. These conflicts existed before the humans came. The Vorthok invasion just made everyone too scared to fight each other. Now that the threat is gone, the old problems are showing again. Amy leaned back in her chair. Maybe that's not entirely bad. At least now these civilizations are free to solve their own problems instead of just trying to survive. It's a question. Is Warsinger, Veltara said. What do we do about it? Do we try to stop these new wars? Jake looked around the table at the beings who had become his friends and allies. 6 months ago, they were strangers from different worlds. Now they were working together to keep peace in the galaxy. We can't force peace on everyone, Jake said finally. But we can make sure that aggressive civilizations don't destroy peaceful ones. If the Saurians and the Kefter want to fight each other, that's their choice. But if either of them attacks innocent worlds, then we step in. What about the Nexus Collective? Lisa asked. They're taking over empty Vorthok colonies. Those worlds are abandoned. Are there any people still living on those worlds? Jake asked. Amy checked her medical reports. Yes, Admiral. Small populations of various species who were enslaved by the Vorthok. They're free now, but they have nowhere to go. Then those worlds aren't empty, Jake said firmly. Send a message to the Nexus Collective. Tell them they can use the planets. But only if they help the people already living there. No slavery, no forced labor, and if they refuse, Rick asked. Then they'll learn why the galaxy calls us Deathworlders, Jake replied. The briefing continued for another hour. They discussed trade agreements between worlds, construction of new hospitals using human medical techniques, and the expansion of the combined fleet. Each topic showed how much the galaxy had changed since humans arrived. After the meeting, Jake walked through the station's main corridor. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved past him. He saw Zenturi crystal beings talking with furry creatures from the ice world of Frostholm. Reptilian Saurians examined human technology alongside insect-like beings from the garden worlds. But what struck Jake most was how they looked at him. 6 months ago, the galaxy had seen humans as violent primitives from a dangerous world. Now they looked at him with respect, even admiration. Children of various species would stop and stare when they saw his. Uniformed Jake stopped at the medical bay to visit Amy. She was treating a wounded Vorthok who had escaped from their civil war. The alien warrior was letting a human doctor heal him, something that would have been impossible before the battle at Zenturi Prime. How is he? Jake asked. He'll be fine, Amy said, checking her instruments. But Jake, you should hear what he's been telling me. The Vorthok Civil War isn't just about politics. It's about whether their species should change their entire way of life. The wounded Vorthok looked up at Jake with its large insect eyes. You are the human admiral, it said in broken English. The one who defeated our fleet. We didn't defeat you, Jake said. We just showed you a different way to live. Yes, the Vorthok agreed. Before, we only knew conquest. Kill or be killed. Take or be taken. But your doctor healed my wounds. Your people treated Vorthok prisoners with kindness. This was ... impossible to understand. What will you do now? Jake asked. I will return to my people and tell them what I learned, that strength and mercy can exist together. That victory can come without destroying your enemy. Amy smiled. That might be the most important lesson we've taught anyone. Later that evening, Jake stood in his quarters, looking out at the stars. His communicator chimed with a message from Earth. The message was from the President of the United Earth Government, Admiral Morrison, the President said. Your reports have been read by every leader on Earth. The whole planet is proud of what you and your crew have accomplished. But I have to ask, what happens next? What is humanity's role in this new galaxy? Thought about the question for a long time before recording his reply. Mr. President, we never intended to become the leaders of the galaxy. We just answered a call for help. Now that we're here, we have a responsibility. The galaxy is full of civilizations that never learned to fight, and others that never learned to stop fighting. Maybe our job is to teach them both lessons. He paused, looking at the ships from dozens of worlds docked outside his window. We're not conquerors, and we're not policemen. We're teachers and protectors. We show other species that strength without compassion is just bullying, and compassion without strength is just weakness. The galaxy needs both. Jake sent the message and returned to his desk. There were reports to read, decisions to make, and a whole galaxy that was still learning what it meant to have humans as neighbors. Outside his window, the stars seemed brighter than before. Each point of light represented worlds where people were free because humans had answered a call for help. The galaxy had shaken when the Deathworlders appeared, but now it was finding a new balance. And at the center of it all, the humans from the dangerous world called Earth stood ready to protect anyone who needed their help. Just as they had done for the Zenturi so many months ago, the age of human guardianship had begun.